Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanishalaakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Nitinamine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet. In this session, we'll continue to discuss from the 20th verse of the 16th chapter of the first canto Srimad Bhagavatam. The translation of the verse, just to refresh your memory. I have lost my 3 legs and am now standing on one only. Are you lamenting for my state of existence? Or are you in great anxiety because henceforward the unlawful meat eaters will exploit you? Or are you in a sorry plight because the demigods are now bereft of their share of sacrificial offerings because no sacrifices are being performed at present? Or are you grieving for living beings because of their sufferings due to famine and drought? So we'll continue discussing the purport. So in the previous session we discussed about what is faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. What is real faith and what is blind faith or material belief system. The two are completely different. As I mentioned earlier, the word Shraddha that is used, that's the beginning of bhakti. Shraddha is the beginning of bhakti, real faith in Krishna. That is the beginning of bhakti. So till one actually has got that Shraddha, the real faith in Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there is no question of bhakti at all. So what passes off at bhakti or devotion is some sentiment, some blind faith, some belief system. Like sometimes people ask, do you believe in God? One person may ask another person. The other person will say, yeah, I believe in God. Somebody else will say, I don't believe in God. So this belief system is not what we are talking about here when we say faith. This is different. This is completely, it is coming from the core of the heart. It's a transformation of the heart by purification through the authorized process of executing bhakti, devotional service. So it is complete. It's not just a mental state, or it's not an intellectual exercise. It is actually a transformation of the heart by purification. Heart means here we are talking of consciousness, which is a symptom of the soul. Conscious symptom of the soul. So let me continue the purport. The degradation of the human instinct begins from the mlechas, and the Chandala state of life is the last word in human degradation. Why is Prabhupada telling this? He is telling in Kali Yuga, the human beings become degraded in their character, in their consciousness, due to the evil influence of the age, the Kali Yuga. And what is the evil influence of Kali Yuga? There is widespread sinful activities, particularly 4 kinds of sinful activities, characterizing this Kali Yuga. Meat eating, intoxication, gambling, illicit sex. So these 4 sinful activities are prominent in Kali Yuga, and these sinful activities are very much prevalent among more and more people in Kali Yuga. Even though somebody may be born in a very, very cultured and very good family, by mixing with other people outside the family in the society who are sinful, who are breaking these 4 principles of no meat eating, no intoxication, one becomes influenced, and a good person, a cultured person, a pious person becomes sinful. So that's what we are talking about, degradation in this Kali Yuga. So Prabhupada says, all the above terms mentioned in the Vedic literatures are never meant for any particular community or birth. When you say mlecha, it's not because somebody is born in a particular family or belongs to a community that we call the person mlecha. No. They are different qualifications of human beings in general. Any human being. What is his qualification? Based on that, we say he's a Brahmana, he's a Kshatriya, he's a Mlecha, he's a Yamana, based on qualifications. And if somebody practices bhakti, then their qualifications can change. Just like a child is born ignorant, but you send the child to school and the child gets trained in mathematics, then it becomes knowledgeable in mathematics. So it's no longer ignorant of mathematics. So an ignorant person becomes a knowledgeable person by training, by education, by culture. Same way, a mlecha means a person who is not following the Vedic principles, uncultured, uncivilized according to the Vedic standard, not having cleanliness, not having good habits, does not know how to show respect to elders. Such a person, by training, by education, spiritual education, by association with transcendentalists, can become completely a changed person, can become a nice devotee, can become a Vaishnava, can become a first-class human being. Possible. So it's not that permanently somebody is labeled as Mlecha, Shudra. No, never. That is not the authorized Vedic tradition or Vedic culture. No. Nowadays, there's a tendency to label people like that. Somebody says, I am a Brahman. How do you say you're a Brahmana? I was born in a Brahmin family. Or my forefathers were very nice, first-class qualified Brahmanas. That's fine. Your forefathers are first-class qualified Brahmanas, because of which you have a good possibility of getting trained up in first-class behavior, first-class qualities. Yes. But unless you get trained and unless you actually exhibit those qualities, you are not a Brahmana. You cannot be called a Brahmana. So that is what Prabhupada is telling. Never these designations as Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Mlecha, Yamana are never meant for any particular community, or they are not to be, these designations are not to be given based on birth. They are based on qualifications. There is no question of birthright or community. No, that is not the way. One can acquire the respective qualification by one's own efforts, and thus the son of a Vaishnava can become a Mlecha, born in a nice Vaishnava family, but by bad association, by not following the principles of Vaishnava conduct, one becomes a Mlecha. Or the son of a Chandala can become more than a Brahmana, can become first-class Vaishnava. All in terms of their association and intimate relation with the Supreme Lord. Vaishnava means one who connects with Krishna through the process of bhakti, devotional service, bhakti yoga. And then when the connection is established by qualification, by practice, by association, by behavior, by culture, then even though a person by birth was not having any good qualities or any good behavior, can become qualified, can exhibit all the good qualities by training, by culture, by association, develop that relationship and become a first class Vaishnava. Next, Prabhupada talks about meat eaters. The meat eaters are generally called mlechas. Mlecha means meat eaters, who are particular kind of meat eaters. Prabhupada says all meat eaters are not mlechas. Those who accept meat in terms of scriptural injunctions are not mlechas. In scriptures there is a concession given to somebody who is very much habituated to eating meat. If they want to regulate their meat eating according to scriptural directions, because they can't totally give up eating meat immediately when they come to know about the fact that meat eating is sinful activity, because of which they have to suffer sinful reactions. So they don't want suffering, so they have to stop meat eating, but they can't immediately stop. They can regulate their meat eating according to scriptural direction. So in one place in the scriptures it is said meat eating is sinful, you should not eat meat, avoid meat eating. Now that may not be possible for everyone. On hearing such a scriptural direction or injunction, a person cannot immediately stop because of habit. So such a person who is habituated to meat eating but would like to gradually reduce and give up over a period of time. So then the scriptural injunctions are there that in a restricted way such a person can accept meat. What is that restriction? In the Skanda Purana it is said, those who want to regulate their meat eating so that they don't get very, very ghastly sinful reactions, severe suffering, no. They should avoid cow killing. They should only take the flesh of a goat, only one creature, goat flesh, not any animal flesh, not any bird flesh, no, only goat. And that also only once a month they can take this flesh. Once a month only on Amavasya. Amavasya occurs once in a month, lunar month. And only by sacrificing a goat to goddess Kali, performing a sacrifice, yajna. Yajna is the way of purifying our existence. So that is the regulation to be followed. So those who are following these regulations according to scriptural directions are not mlechas, even if they are eating meat. So those meat eaters who accept meat without any regulation or restriction are called mlechas. This is the accurate definition of who is a mlecha. Beef is forbidden in scriptures. Beef means the flesh of a cow. And the bulls and cows are offered special protection by the followers of the Vedas. So in the Vedic culture, nobody, even meat eaters, never touch the flesh of a cow or a bull. Never. So, and on the other hand, the cows and bulls are offered special protection. They are going to die natural death, of course, but they never killed for the sake of eating the cow meat. No, never. In this age of Kali, people will exploit the body of the bull and the cow as they like, and thus they will invite sufferings of various types. See, this is the unfortunate situation, Kali Yuga. They are ignorant, they don't care for any restrictions or regulations, they don't follow Shastra, or they don't have proper guidance, And hence, just because they like to eat some animal flesh, they say it's my choice which kind of flesh I eat. Eating is my choice. You like to eat vegetables, you eat vegetables. I like to eat vegetables and some meat also. Or somebody else likes to eat fish, somebody else likes to eat eggs, somebody else likes to eat some bird flesh, chicken flesh. So whatever one's choice one may eat. This is not correct understanding. There is consideration of what a person should eat. Every living being by arrangement, higher arrangement, has got designated food. Just like a cow will never eat any flesh. A tiger will never eat grass. See, that designated food for tiger is the flesh of certain animals. Designated food for cow is grass. So, this is by higher arrangement in nature. But among human beings, there is a certain freedom given that you may eat different kinds of edibles. But that is restricted to vegetables, fruits, grains, dal, cow's milk, like this. It is restricted to that for human beings. Designated food for human beings. Now, if somebody thinks that I will eat what I like to eat, or I'll eat what is good for my health. Somebody may say, oh, for you vegetable may be okay, for me vegetable is not enough to be healthy, to develop good strength. I require to eat some non-vegetarian food. So that may be some consideration some people may have. But if you have to eat meat, there is restriction by which if you follow this restriction, only goat flesh, only once a month, only after sacrificing the goat to Kali, only to Kali, not to any Devata, not to Krishna, not to Vishnu, no. And it must be sacrificed. There is a procedure for sacrificing, according to Shastra. Then that person is saved from grievous sinful reactions. But in Kali Yuga, people don't care for all this restriction, they don't bother. Therefore, they invite sufferings of so many kind. So that is one unfortunate situation in Kali Yuga. I'll stop here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.